Welcome back to another episode of This Old Shop. Last time we got all of our demolition done, well, for the most part. Today, it's time to start putting things back together. So we're gonna go ahead and start on this wall. So let's get to it. What is this? Yes, indeed, I have captured the elusive roaming gnome on camera. It's kind of like Bigfoot. While he doesn't like being filmed doing body work and car stuff, he's pretty confident with his construction ability, so he didn't mind being filmed. Well, that and the fact that I don't think he knew I was filming him. So here we go. He's currently cutting out our crooked tile, so we have a place to put our wall directly on the concrete. And the reason we're doing that is in 30 years when somebody is taking this building apart, I don't want them to see our new wall over some old tile and say somebody's been here before. I mean, they're still going to say that, but at least it was done partially correctly, I guess. So we're going to cut the tile out of there. And if you're thinking, well, it's crooked, why don't you just get rid of it? The only thing worse than crooked tile is no tile. And that's what we'd have if we took it all up. And since I don't like doing tile work, we're going to deal with the crooked tile. We're just going to cut out what we don't need and leave the rest. I don't have to do it later. And to appease the safety experts, he is wearing hearing protection and eye protection. Also, he's wearing a mask. Unfortunately, there is no guard on the grinder, so they're still going to lose their minds. But, oh well, I can only do so much for those guys. You may have heard the phrase in the past, necessity is the mother of invention. While I do totally agree with that, I have to update it for my purposes. And that's being cheap and lazy leads to repurposing old tools for new jobs. Yes, that is my favorite tool, the air chisel. Now repurposed to a tile remover. It even takes them out in one big piece. Legend has it that they make an actual tool for this, but I don't want to spend the money to rent it. You can also use a chisel and a hammer, but, well, I'm slightly more efficient than that, and I had this, and it seems to be working. Although there is a little bit of a caveat here. These little pieces of tile become shards of glass flying through the air. I did manage to bleed a bit of my own blood.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. Nobody!
I guess it doesn't matter. I can always make more. And that happens to be much cheaper than tool rental. So we're going to continue to do it this way. Getting started is the hardest part. And that's the part where I figured out I was bleeding my own blood. The air chisel got sticky. Not even sure when or how it happened. That's how sharp this stuff is. And I am wearing eye and hearing protection, so don't come at me. I know, gloves might have saved me, but I doubt it. Besides, gloves cost money, and my skin heals by itself, so we're fine. I'll live. And if you're wondering what the green line on my arm is, that's from our laser level. It's marking where we need to cut this line. We kind of used some technology here. The last people didn't. And they actually got things amazingly straight. Well, not the tile part, because that was the somebodies that had been here before. But the people that built this building originally, before the somebodies that had been here before got here, did a pretty good job. And since it was built in 1975, I got to commend them. Fun fact that you may or may not care about, but I found it extremely interesting, so you're about to hear it. I actually met the guy that did the build out in this building 40 years ago. He's in a different industry now, but that's the benefit of working in a small town. He also had a lot to share about the old tenant of this building, as did quite a few other people that I've met in town. But the one thing they all agree on is they are glad that guy is gone. I guess that's one of the drawbacks of being in a small town, is that if you're an a-hole, everybody in town knows it, and they like to share it. So far, everyone's glad to see him gone and me in here, but that's just because they don't know me yet. Give it some time. Once they get to know me, they'll be wishing the old guy was back. While I was rambling on, the roaming gnome has used the air chisel to get rid of the rest of the base for this tile. And then when we're all done, we're going to grind off whatever the air chisel didn't take off, so we have a nice smooth surface to mount our wall to. Might even polish it. I know I said the demolition was over, except for some trimming, which this floor is. However, after stepping back and taking a good look at what's going on here, there's far too many somebodies that have been here before. So we need to kind of fix what they've done over the years. And instead of just framing in this opening and putting the wall up, we decided we're going to replace this entire wall. It's going to take us a little bit longer, but in the long run, it's going to make a much better job. So we're going to spend the time. We're going to pry off our drywall here. If they had only taken so much care in building the rest of this wall as they did nailing in this drywall corner, we probably wouldn't have to redo anything. But this did not want to come out. So I'm going to keep working on this while the roaming gnome cuts all of our pieces for building our wall. And yes, if you're wondering, that is one of the old joists that we took out of our ceiling. It's going into our new wall. No waste here, because I'm poor. I'm no expert, but I think you're supposed to measure it before you cut it. Whatever. We got extras. He cut our headers. Now he's going to go ahead and cut our studs. We even splurged and went with new wood for our top and bottom plates and our king studs, just because we want to make sure those are in good shape. And now we're going to assemble it all. Done. Before we get ahead of ourselves and start destroying our old wall, we need to support our upper level here. And to do that, we're just going to tie it into the beam that holds up our roof. Hopefully it'll hold it. If not, I guess it's a good time to find out that the roof is not as strong as we thought it was, rather than after we're in here and a foot of snow is on top of it and it collapses on us. For the end of the wall, we just threw a come-along on there and tied it up to the ceiling, or as some of you might know it, the puller for the mobile frame rack. However, the middle, we need to put an eye bolt in here. And yes, that is a used eye bolt that we took out from our old ceiling. And we're going to tie that up to our other beam and pull that up. And we do have a laser level on there just to make sure our floor ends up remotely close to where it started. Looks good. But unfortunately, I missed the crucial step of flicking the cable and saying that's not going anywhere. So we need a little bit more bracing. For that, we're going to head over to Scott's Lumber Emporium, grab some 2x10s, screw the first one into the joist to connect them all, and give this one a place to stand on. Then we cut it a little bit longer, I'm going to jam it in here, and then toenail it into our original, and hopefully that keeps this thing from falling on my head. We're about to find out right now. Well, it didn't take much to get that out of there. Little wiggle and pull. One last one. There's always one. I'm going to remove our door frame. Only because it was connected to this wall. It's going to be in our way. And we're not going to have a door here in the future. Remove our drywall. And back to removing our header, which I believe was repurposed from something else. It was coated in concrete remnants, so I think it was an old form at one time. Either way, it's going in the pile now. It's done being repurposed. We'll pry this header down. This wall used to be complete. Somebody put this doorway in here. We're basically putting it back the way it was. Knock our last piece of wall out of here. A bit more on the floor, and we got to nail the break off. We're going to convert our double top plate into a single top plate. Just going to pry the bottom off of here. We're going to leave the top on there because all of our joists are toe-nailed into it. So rather than trying to toenail them back in and moving things around, we're just going to leave them up there. We'll keep our spacing right. We'll slip our new wall underneath, screw it all together. We might have to redo some of those toenails in the future, but we'll do that later. Of course, all of this is provided that the second floor doesn't come crashing down to the first floor while we work on this. So far, so good, though. It is hard to resist the urge to just pull that bottom down, because if I do, because I want to save the top, it's going to peel right off of there. So we got to pry against it. Hold the top in place. Pull the bottom out. Takes a little longer, but not as long as replacing that top plate would be. I win. We trucked our new wall over here, literally. We used the hand truck to move it. And we're going to slip our wall underneath our old top plate. Little fine tuning to get this thing exactly where it belongs. Close only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and construction. Since I'm programmed for cars, we're going to be exactly on or within 3 millimeters, because those are my settings. And we're going to load our wall by taking out our bracing. Timber. Now we're going to attach our wall to the floor. We're going to use bolts, Tapcons to be exact. We'll drill the hole through our wood first. I know, the hammer drill will go through it, but why not use a wood bit for the wood? We'll switch over to the hammer drill to drill the hole in our concrete. And we did use treated lumber for that bottom plate because this is going to be the wash bay and we don't want moisture rotting that piece out. We also put flashing tape across the bottom of that board to keep the moisture from transferring from the concrete to the board. Hopefully, we've made all the necessary precautions to make this wall last as long as the building. And the building should last much longer than me. So we're good. Now we got all the holes drilled. We can run our bolt down in there. And our wall is secured to the floor. Ran a few more in there. Never mind the different washers. We just used what was available. I didn't want to make a trip to the hardware store. But I'll have to for the next wall. Replacing that other wall wasn't part of the original plans. We were just going to trim it down and attach our new wall to it. So we're back to our original plans, which is doing the same thing on this wall. We're pulling down this first row of ceiling tiles. That way we can take the drywall off of here and not have to take the entire ceiling down. So while the roaming gnome is drilling out all of our rivets to get our little cross braces out and pulling out the forbidden cotton candy, I'm going to take some drywall down. And some door trim. Got some rogue wires I haven't cut off yet. I will. We're just taking down enough that we can work in here. Pull the little braces out. And we'll pull the other side off the wall. But we'll save this part when we get done with it. Now that that's out of the way, we'll get the Assault drywall removal tool. Knock all of our drywall out of here and our fake bricks. More drywall on top of our doors. And there goes our fake bricks. We'll just cover up all this cotton candy so I resist the urge to eat it. Trim the top of this drywall off. And it folds up for easy handling. In the pile. And just like many of the rebuilds that I buy when somebody's been here before, our door hangs. It really bothers me, but we'll see if we can fix it while we're putting this wall back up. And yes, I am fully aware that I could pull the trim off of there, take some shims out, and move the door frame in a little bit, and it would be fine. But I'm assuming, maybe incorrectly, that when they built it, the door closed fine. So I think if we compensate for it a little bit, we can straighten it out. without having to do all that other work. However, if we get all done and the door still doesn't close right, I'll do it your way. We'll pull that trim off of there and take out a shim. Currently, I'm trimming out a portion of this wall because some goofball put a door where our wall is supposed to be. Toss that in the pile. Oh, still attached. I get that. There you go. And that door glass takes yet another hit. I'm kind of impressed. If it makes it through the construction, I'm saving that door. We can knock out our stud here. And this one. And that's all we need out of the way. But we're just going to go ahead and finish this wall. Just like the last side, wasn't part of the plans. Although this side I had no plans because I hadn't taken the drywall off to see what was inside. There was a lot of weight that the old tenant had upstairs, and it broke a lot of these studs, and that's why all the doors downstairs didn't close. So replacing a lot of this probably isn't a bad idea. In its 50 years of existence, this building has undergone some changes, which are to be expected, and it's hard to figure out what's been replaced and what hasn't. But one of our biggest clues is the electrical. Originally, the conduit was all run through the floor, the concrete floor. So anywhere we see it, we know the wall is original. However, this wall is original, and they still cut it off. Conduit, wires and all. There's still wiring in there. It's going to be in our way. It's actually going to be in our doorway. So we're going to trim it off flush with the concrete. So this one perplexes me. I'm not sure if they abandoned that circuit because there was a problem with it, or if they just decided they were running another circuit and they might as well replace the one that was there. Who knows, but it's gone now. While I'm redoing the electrical work, the roving gnome has finally found a place over here at the saw, trimming all of our boards so we can assemble our new wall. One last cut. All of our pieces are trimmed. Time to assemble our wall. Done. And the Bobcat finds another use, even better than the brake job hammer. Excuse me, sir. Your wall is upside down. I'm kind of torn here, because thanks to the narrator, we got our wall in the right direction. However, he did assume my gender. Although it was correct, it's 2025 and I feel like I should be offended. Unfortunately, I don't have the luxury of time to be offended, so we need to get some work done. We're going to hammer our wall in here. We built it the same way as the other side. We left the top plate of our top plate nailed into our joist, and we're just going to slip our other wall in underneath it. We got it in place. Now we're going to go ahead and tap con it to the floor. Is that a thing? It is now. I stopped at that place where you save big money, Midwesterners will understand, and got some washers so that we don't have mismatched ones. So everybody with OCD can feel better. And back to more electrical work. We're going to cut these little pieces of conduit off. This was also in an existing wall that they trimmed off even though the wall was in the same place. Also, not sure what's going on there. But because this wall is close to the other wall, I'm assuming that they had a problem with this circuit and just cut everything out of there. Doesn't matter anymore. It's all gone. Now we're back to Plan A, building our 27-foot wall that we actually came here to build. All of these other side quests were just, filler, I guess. And it's not really 27 feet. It's 26 and some change, but we round up. Guys will understand. First, we dropped our bottom plate. Now we're going to drop all of our studs in place. And our top plate. And to hold all of our wall ingredients together, we need to sprinkle in some nails to taste. And that completes our wall recipe. Let's put it up. The roaming gnome decided the best way to do this was divide it into thirds and lift there. Unfortunately, I'm greedy, so I sent him down a little bit so that I could have my 3/4 and he could have his quarter. I planned on building it in the open part of the shop and then moving it over here. He wanted to build it here and just set it up. I'm glad we did it his way because it made our life a whole lot easier. We did have to work around the vent for our old shower and that electrical that we bent out of the way, which the roaming gnome said, this is going to be on our way. How are we going to set it up? And I said, well, we have a way to move that. And he said, an 8-pound sledge? I said, no, a 170-pound Scott. So we just bent it out of our way. Unfortunately, that 170-pound Scott forgot that we put some screws in here to hold our come-along in place, and now we can't slide our wall in. So we're going to pull those screws out of there. We'll slip our wall in there, and because I'm Captain Safety, we're going to throw an extra screw in there so that when our wall falls out on top of us, it's held in by that one screw. Safety first, third, fifth, whatever. Mush! We're going to slide our wall into place, or at least close to it. Kind of hit a stop there, the wall we put in earlier. Alright, we're past that.
I got about another half inch to go over here.
Yeah,
Now all that's left is some fine tuning.
Not too far?
slightly. 16. I'm good down here.
You got hold the walls so it doesn't fall out.
Got it.
Are we under that?
I think we're just tight.
Now our 170-pound Scott's going to reposition our conduit so we can cut it off later. Not sure why we care. We're going to continue our fine tuning and tapping our wall into place. Make sure it's level, and it's not. We're having a little trouble. So we need to move the top of our wall over and hold it. It keeps bouncing back. So I'm going to teach the construction guy a little trick I know. Maybe teach you guys something too. We're going to screw a screw into the wall. That's where we want it. Then we're going to put our pry bar in here. We're going to pry against it and push the wall, our new wall, where we want it. Hold it in place and screw it in. Unfortunately, I'm holding it in place with my right hand and trying to screw it in with my left hand, and I am right-handed. I'm kind of ambidextrous, but when it comes to screwing walls in, apparently I'm right-handed, so this is very awkward, but we still got our wall in place, and it's not going anywhere, at least not for the short run. Grab our level, see if the little project worked, and it did. Are you amazed? Because I am.
Almost like we had a clue.
We bolted our new wall to the floor and screwed in our old wall. Let's see if it fixed our door here. And it did. No need to worry about any shims in that door frame now. Speaking of door frames, we already removed, well, 3/4 of this one. We might as well go ahead and remove the door. Only 2 hinges on this old style door. And we'll toss that in the door pile. It's private. Now, since I'm too lazy to use a tape measure and I have a bit of technology, we're going to level out the electrical boxes so we can put them up. Since my brain operates on movie quotes, sarcasm, and vengeance, this setting reminds me of one of the movies I really enjoyed. There's another one that comes to mind. If you can guess it, I'll pin your comment and send you a t-shirt. We got our box right where we want it. Now we're just going to pound it in.
That's what she said.
However, I'm not sure the pounding was quite enough. I'm very thorough, so we're going to give it a good screw.
That's what she said.
Michael, please. Please.
Mwah!
Now that we've done one box, it gets much easier from here. Line it up and pound it in.
Come again? That's what she said.
That's not going anywhere.
I did read a few comments that people were having trouble envisioning exactly what I was in my head and what we were trying to do here. So let's have a little walkthrough. First, we're in our shop now. This is exactly where our shop is going to be. That's going to be one wall. That's going to be another. We're going to close this off. There'll be a couple doors here so that we can get cars in and out and people. And then we're going to close off our upstairs. But for the most part, this is all shop space now, instead of offices that we really couldn't use. The HVAC for the office is going to be rehomed to in here. That's why we put this opening in here so that our return vent can draw air from in the office. And our furnace will go right here. And then the ductwork will go through the ceiling just like it did over there. We'll put up a wall right here around our shower, and our bathroom will be much more private than it was before when you had multiple doors getting in. It'll just have the one door and then it'll be walled off. There'll be a little space behind the shower that will be in the storeroom now, and we can put a couple filing cabinets in there, maybe some office supplies, so this will be a little storeroom and a place for our HVAC to live. And that's pretty much it. A lot more simple than it used to be. That room over there will just be for supplies that we use every day. You know, fluids, fasteners, like drywall screws that we use in our rebuilds on a daily basis, stuff like that. And then anything that's stock or larger that we don't use as often, that's all gonna go upstairs. And we're not gonna store any parts anywhere in here, trying to keep the hoarding to a minimum. We'll see how that goes. I think I made my final decision, and we are going to put the spray booth over here. We're gonna put the frame rack over there, and we'll have an aisle down the center that we'll be able to access our showroom. And maybe park cars in there or work on cars there when we're not driving cars in and out, which won't be all that often. That's pretty much what it's gonna look like. So hope that helps. A lot less confusing than it used to be walking around in this place, that's for sure. Unfortunately, since I'm poor, I couldn't afford the wireless Bluetooth outlets, so we're gonna have to actually connect some conduit. Luckily, I have a buddy over at Scott's Electrical Supply Emporium, and he hooked me up with plenty of conduit, connectors, and couplers so that we can get this all put together. And if you're wondering, this is code in this area for commercial buildings, so that's why I have to put conduit back in there. Once we get all our conduit in there, we go ahead and wire it up. I believe we got plenty of wire here. So we're gonna get all that done, but that looks like it for today. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.
I got the prize.
Hit the thing twice.